Hello everyone, it's Mr. Steves here, and I'm going to get you to open up the document that you found on this page, just above the video, and it looks something like this. It's a 6-page document, and if I scroll down here, you'll see that it's basically just something for us to work with. But you'll notice that there is a main title. There are going to be some subtitles, like this one. And you'll notice that some of them here aren't formatted at all. So in other words, maybe I wanted my uh, subtitles to have a certain font, a little bit smaller maybe than the main title, but I didn't set the other ones up. But you'll notice that there are words in parentheses here, heading 2. We'll find some more that will say heading 3. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to assume that we have a document with hundreds of pages. And with that, we're going to try and save ourselves some time rather than, having to select this and change the font, and change the color and all that stuff and do it for every one of these. We're going to use something called word styles. And up here at the top, you've probably noticed, you may have noticed this before, but normally you'd probably be on normal. Like all of the text here is set to the normal style. So you can click anywhere on any one of the paragraphs and it'll show normal here. But what we can do with this is we can add new styles or we can modify existing ones, and we're going to concentrate on modifying existing ones for this trial. So a little demonstration that I'd like you to pause the video, try things out once I've done it for you, okay? So let's take a look at this. We have, let's see, heading 1. We have heading 2. That's already preset. We go over here to Venus. Oh, it's not set to heading 2. So what do? We're just going to make sure that we're anywhere on this line. We don't have to select it. We'll click on heading 2 and look at that. It changes it to the font and font size and color that was set up for the style called heading 2. Let's do one more. Let's go to Earth. Click anywhere here. Click on heading 2. There we go. Oh, the moon, heading 3. Let's scroll down, click on somewhere's in here. Let's click on heading 3 and see what we get there. So the font's a little bit smaller, doesn't seem to be italicized. And we could do this throughout, but what we'll do here is we're going to just to assume that, okay, let's say for heading 2, we would like to have a different color font, maybe a slightly different font too. So what we'll do is we'll place ourselves anywhere here, or it didn't really matter, as long as we go up here on styles, right click, modify, we can leave the same name, and maybe let's change the font. Let's change it to something different. Let's go with Garamond or Calibri. Doesn't really matter. Let's change the font to 16 just for fun. Maybe we'll get rid of the italicize. Now, what would we do here if we wanted to change the color of the font? Notice here that we have a description font. There we go. The before spacing and the after spacing, and it's based on the normal template. We'll click here on Format. We'll go down here and see what we have. Font, paragraph. So let's go to Font. It's only because we know that we can change the font color under Font if we went up here. But we'll go to Format, Font. That'll give us more options. And look at all the options that we have now. The whole slew of fonts, the style, the size, the color, the underline, and the rest. I'm going to change it to, let's change it to blue. Just pick a blue color here and see what happens. All right, let's say that this is exactly what we want. We'll click on OK. And look at that, it changed it here. And it changed it anywhere else where we've set it up so that the subtitle knew that it was going to use the style heading 2. So imagine if you had hundreds of pages and you decided that, you know what, I'd like to change the the look of my subheading, well, here we go. This would do it for the whole document. Now, we didn't set them all up yet, but if we do, click on Mars, heading 2, Jupiter, heading 2. Are there any more? Saturn, heading 2. Oh, we have some main titles here, heading 1s. Okay, so we'll do those two. All right. Well, why don't we set up heading 3 right now? Do we have any other heading 3s? Let's look for all of the heading 3s. Place yourself on it somewheres and just click up here on heading 3. And by the way, if you click and you go over to the left here a little bit and you right click, whoops, should have done it right here. You can, rather than scroll or move all the way up to the top, you could go right here, right click, and on your context menu styles, we could just pick heading 3 right here. So click on it, right click, styles, heading 3. It just saves us from moving way up to the top every time. Right click, styles, heading 3, right click, styles, heading 3, right click, styles, heading 3. Now as you were creating a document, if you were creating a document with hundreds of pages, you would have done this as you were creating it and not necessarily go through the whole document. When you put the subtitle in, you would have said, okay, it's going to be a heading 3 no matter what. Let's pick heading 1s here for these ones. The sun, asteroids. All right, so we've got all of our headings set up here. I'll take a look at that. Control Home, by the way, brings you right up to the top. Okay, so let's say that we wanted to change heading 1 to a much larger font, and also let's say that we wanted it to be centered. So we right click on it, modify, and we set up what we want. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Oh, let's go 20. Let's make it centered. Let's change the font color to maybe red would be good. I'll pick any color red. And we'll click OK. Now what do you suppose happened to the other main titles that were at the bottom? Well, because we already set them up so that they would be heading 1, they changed automatically, saving yourself a ton of time. Having said that, I thought I centered it. Let's try that again. Right click, modify. I did center it, but it didn't seem to work. So let's go to Format, Paragraph, and we'll change the alignment here to centered. So notice that you should be playing around here and seeing what all of this does. But really the ones that you'll use the most are font, probably 90% of the time would be font, paragraph, the other 5%, and then tabs and borders. Well, that's, I mean, if we wanted to put a border around it or something, I'm just going to play around here just for 2 seconds and show you that if I click OK, I could have that border. But don't worry about that. So heading 1, modify, we'll center it by going on paragraph. We'll leave the spacing before and after the same, but notice that we can change that too. And here we go. Now let's see if it worked for the text at the bottom, and sure enough it did. And so what we have here is a document that's almost done, except for heading 3. I think we set them all up so that they are heading 3, and of course we would, delete this stuff here, but just for this exercise, well, let's modify that. Let's pick a different font. Not that we should, but you want to keep a certain consistency. Oh, let's make it italicized, and why not change the color to whatever. Oh, let's underline it with a double underline. We can make the underline color blue. I mean, there's all kinds of things you can do. And we can make it small caps. So, but basically what we're doing here is we're setting them all up automatically now. See that? So it changed it for all of them because we identified earlier that this would be heading 3. Now, the same thing applies here for, let's say, normally when you start working with a Word document, you'll be using the normal style. But let's say that you wanted to change this from, it looks like it's Times New Roman, and change all of the text here so that it would be simply, I don't know, Arial. Well, rather than having to click and drag, why don't we just right click on this, modify, right click on normal, modify it, and let's change it to Arial. And as simple as that, it's going to change all of the paragraphs so that we are using an Arial style. If you find this text too large, same thing, right click, modify, maybe I'll change it to 11 from 12, and there we go. And that's how this works. Now what you should be doing with this, you should save this as styles trial, because you're going to use this later on to, in the next little bit here, to modify a few things. Hopefully you've understood how styles would work. Yes, you can create new ones too by right-clicking, actually right-clicking over here and creating a style if you wanted to create something from scratch, but we'll save that for a little bit later on here. So some advanced Word for you.